morning we're reading from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by His Divine Grace of HG Jananivas Prabhu. This chapter is entitled Delivering the Wives of the Brahmanas, page 237. First paragraph. After the departure of the Brahmana's wives, Sri Govinda and his cowherd boyfriends enjoyed the food they had offered. In this way, the ever-joyful personality of Godhead exhibited his transcendental pastimes in the guise of an ordinary human being in order to attract common people to Krishna consciousness. With his words and beauty, he attracted all the cows, the cowherd boys, and the damsels of Vrindavan. All of them together enjoyed pastimes with the Lord. After the return of their wives from Krishna, the Brahmanas engaged in their respective performance of sacrifices. After the return of the wives from Krishna, the Brahmanas engaged in performance of sacrifice. They began to regret their sinful activity in refusing food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They could finally understand their mistake. Engaged in the ritualistic performance of Vedic rituals, they had neglected the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had appeared just like an ordinary person, just like an ordinary human being, and asked for some food. They began to condemn themselves after seeing the faith and devotion of their wives. They regretted very much that although their wives were engaged and were elevated to the platform of pure devotional service, they themselves could not understand even a little bit how to love and offer transcendental loving service to the Supreme Soul. They began to talk among themselves. To hell without being born Brahmanas. To hell without being born Brahmanas. To hell with learning all the Vedic literatures. To hell without performance of great sacrifices and observing all the rules and regulations. To hell with our own family. To hell without expert service in performing rituals exactly according to the description of the scriptures. To hell with it all, for we have not developed transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the speculation of mind, body and senses. The learned Brahmanas, expert in ritualistic performances, were properly regretful, because if one does not develop Krishna consciousness, the learned Brahmanas, expert in all Vedic ritualistic performances, were properly regretful, because if one does not develop Krishna consciousness, all discharge of religious duties is simply a waste of time and energy. They continue to talk among themselves. The external energy of Krishna is so strong that it can create illusion to overcome even the great mystics, yogis. Although we are expert Brahmanas, and we are considered to have been the teachers of all the other sections of human society, we have also been illusioned by the external energy. Just see how fortunate these women are. They were so devotedly dedicated their lives to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And they easily did what is ordinarily so difficult. They gave up their family connection, which is just like a dark well for continuation of material existence. Women in general, being very simple at heart, can very easily take to Krishna consciousness. And when they develop love for Krishna, they can easily get liberation from the clutches of Maya, which is very difficult for even so-called intelligent, learned men to surpass. The Brahmanas continuing. According to the Vedic injunction, women are not allowed to undergo the process of initiation by the sacred thread, nor are they allowed to live as brahmacharinis in the ashram of the spiritual master, nor are they advised to undergo the strict disciplinary procedures, nor are they very expert in discussing philosophy of self-realization. And by nature, they are not very pure, nor are they very much attached to auspicious activities. Therefore, how wonderful it is that these women have developed transcendental love for Krishna, the Lord of all mystic yogis. They have surpassed all of us in firm faith and devotion to Krishna. Being too much attracted to the materialistic way of life, although we are considered to be the masters of the purity process, we did not actually know what the goal is, even though we were reminded of Krishna and Balaram by the cowherd boys. We disregarded them. We now think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply played a trick of mercy on us by sending his friends to beg some food from us. Otherwise, he had no need to send them. He could have simply satisfied their hunger and thirst. He could have satisfied their hunger then and there just by willing to do so. If someone denies the self-sufficiency of Krishna on hearing that he was tending the cows for his livelihood, or if someone doubts he's not being in need of food, thinking that he was actually hungry, then such persons should understand that the goddess of fortune is always engaged with his service. In this way, the goddess can break her faulty habit of restlessness. In the Vedic literatures like Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Krishna is served in his abode with great respect, not only by one goddess of fortune, but by many thousands. Therefore, it is simply illusion to think that for one to think that Krishna begged food from the Brahmanas. It was actually a trick to show the mercy. It was actually a trick to show them mercy by teaching them that they should accept him in pure devotional service instead of engaging in ritualistic activities and ceremonies. The Vedic ceremonial paraphernalia, such as the place, the suitable time, the different grades of articles for performing the ritualistic ceremonies, the Vedic hymns, the process of sacrifice, the priest who is able to perform the sacrifice, the fire, the demigods, the performer of the sacrifice, and the religious principles are all meant for understanding Krishna. For Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Lord Vishnu and the Lord of all mystic yogis. Because he has appeared as a child in the dynasty of the Jadus, we are so foolish that we could not understand that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas said, but on the other hand, we are very proud because we have such exalted wives who have developed pure transcendental service of the Lord, without being shackled by our rigid opposition. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, under whose illusory energy called Maya we are absorbed in fruitive activities. We therefore pray to the Lord to be kind enough to excuse us, because we are simply captivated by his external energy. We transgress his order without knowing his transcendental glories. The Brahmanas repented for their sinful activities. They wanted to personally go to offer their obeisances unto him. But, being afraid of Kamsa, they could not go to Krishna and surrender to him. In other words, it is very difficult for one to surrender fully unto this personality of Godhead without being purified by a devotional service. The example of the learned Brahmanas and their wives is vivid. The wives of the Brahmanas, because they were if inspired by devotional service, did not care of any kind of opposition, they immediately went to Krishna. But the Brahmanas, even though they had come to know the supreme primacy of the Lord and were repenting, they were still afraid of King Kamsa because they were too much addicted to fruitive activities. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 23rd chapter of Krishna, delivering the wives of the Brahmanas who perform sacrifices. This is chapter 24 of Krishna Book. We're worshipping Govardhana here. While engaged with the Brahmanas who were too much involved in the performance of Vedic sacrifices, Krishna and Balaram also saw that the cowherd men were preparing a similar sacrifice in order to pacify Indra, the king of heaven, who is responsible for supplying water. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, a devotee of Krishna has strong and firm faith in the understanding that if he simply engages in Krishna consciousness and Krishna conscious transcendental loving service, then he is free from all other obligations. A pure devotee of Lord Krishna does not have to perform any of the ritualistic functions enjoined in the Vedas, nor is he required to worship any demigods. Being a devotee of Lord Krishna, one is understood to have performed all kinds of Vedic rituals and all kinds of worship to the demigods. One does not develop devotional service for Krishna by performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or worshiping the demigods, but it should be understood that one who is engaged fully in the service of the Lord has already fulfilled all the Vedic injunctions. In order to stop such activities by his devotees, Krishna wanted to firmly establish exclusive devotional service during his presence in Vrindavan. Because he is the omnipotent personality of Godhead, Krishna knew that the cowherd men were preparing for the Indra sacrifice. But as a matter of etiquette, he began to inquire with great honor and submission from the elderly personalities like Maharaj Nanda. Krishna asked his father, "My dear father, what is this arrangement going on for a great sacrifice? What is the result of such a sacrifice? And for whom is it meant? How is it performed? Would you kindly let me know? I am very eager to know the procedure, so please explain to me the purpose of the sacrifice." Upon this inquiry, his father Nanda Maharaj remained silent, thinking that this young boy would not be able to understand the intricacies performing the jagna. Krishna, however, persisted, "My dear father, for those who are liberal and saintly, there is no secrecy. They do not think anyone to be a friend or enemy or a neutral party, because they are always open to everyone. And even if those who are not so liberal, nothing should be kept secret from family members and friends, although secrets may be maintained for persons who are inimical. Therefore, you cannot keep any secrets from me. All persons are engaged in fruitive activities. Some know what the activities are, and they know the result, and some execute activities without knowing the purpose or the result. A person who acts with full knowledge gets the full result. One who acts without knowledge does not get such a perfect result. Therefore, please let me know the purpose of the sacrifice you are going to perform. Is it according to Vedic injunction, or is it simply a popular ceremony? Kindly let me know in detail about the sacrifice." On hearing this inquiry from Krishna, Maharaj Nanda replied, "My dear boy, this ceremonial performance is more or less traditional, because rainfall is due to the mercy of King Indra, and the clouds are his representatives. And because water is so important for our living, we must show some gratitude to the controller of the rainfall, Maharaj Indra. We are arranging therefore to pacify King Indra because he has very kindly sent clouds to pour down sufficient quantity of rain for successful agricultural activities. Water is very important. Without rainfall we cannot farm or produce grains, and without grains we cannot live. Therefore, rain is necessary for successful religious ceremonies, economic development, and ultimately liberation. So we should not give up this transcendental ceremonial function. If one gives it up, being influenced by lust, greed, or fear, then it does not look very good for him. After hearing this, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the presence of his father and other Likawa men of Vrindavan, spoke in such a way as to make the heavenly King Indra very angry. He suggested that they forego the sacrifice. His reasons for discouraging the sacrifice performed to please Indra were twofold. First, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no need to worship the demigods for any material advancement. All results derived from worshipping demigods are simply temporary, and only those who have less intelligence, they are interested in temporary results. Second, whatever temporary result is derived from worshipping the demigods is actually granted by the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita, Maiva Vihitam Hitam. Whatever benefit is supposed to be derived from the demigods is actually bestowed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot bestow any benediction upon others. But sometimes the demigods become puffed up by the influence of material nature, thinking themselves all in all. They forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated that in this instance, Krishna wanted to make King Indra very angry. Krishna's advent was actually especially meant for the annihilation of the demons and protection of the devotees. King Indra was certainly a devotee, not a demon, but because he was puffed up, he wanted to teach him a lesson. He first made Indra angry by stopping the Indra Jagna, the Indra Puja, which had been arranged by the cowmen in Vrindavan. With this purpose in mind, Krishna began to talk as if he were an atheist, supporting the philosophy of Kama Mimamsa. Advocates of this philosophy do not accept the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. They put forward the argument that if anyone works nicely, the result is sure to come. Their opinion is that even if there is a God who gives man the results of his fruitive activities, there is no need to worship him. Because unless man works, he cannot enjoy good results. They say that instead of worshipping the demigods or God, people should give attention to their own duties, and thus the good result will surely come. Lord Krishna began to speak to his father according to the principles of Kama Mimamsa philosophy. My dear father, he said, I don't think you need to worship any demigods for your successful performance of your agricultural activities. Every living being is born according to his past karma and leaves this life taking the results of his present karma. Everyone is born in different types of species of life according to his past activities, and he gets the next birth according to the activities of this life. Different grades of material happiness and distress, comforts and disadvantages of life are different results of different kinds of activities. from either the past or the present life. Maharaj Nanda and the other elderly members argued, without satisfying the predominating God, one cannot derive any good result simply by material activities. This is actually a fact. For example, it is sometimes found that in spite of first-class medical help and treatment by a first-class physician, a diseased person dies. It is concluded, therefore, that first-class medical treatment or attempts for first-class physician are not in themselves a cause for curing the patient. There must be the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, the fathers and mothers taking care of their children is also not the cause of the children's comfort. Sometimes it's found in spite of all care by the parents, the children go bad and succumb to death. Therefore, material causes are not sufficient for results. There must be the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nanda Maharaj therefore advocated that in order to get good results for agricultural activities, they must satisfy Indra, the superintending deity of the rain supply. Lord Krishna nullified this argument, saying that Lord Krishna nullified this argument, saying that the demigods give results only to persons who have executed their prescribed duties. These demigods cannot give any good result to a person who has not executed the prescribed duties. Therefore, demigods are dependent on the execution of duties and are not absolute in awarding good results to anyone. So why we should care about them? My dear Father, Lord Krishna said, there is no need to worship demigod Indra. Everyone has to achieve the results of his own work. We can actually see that one becomes busy according to his natural tendency of his work. And according to that natural tendency, all living entities, whether human beings or demigods, achieve their respective results. All living entities achieve the higher or lower bodies and create enemies, friends, or neutral parties, only because of their different kinds of work. One should be careful to discharge the duties according to his natural instinct and should not divert attention to the worship of various demigods. The demigods will be satisfied by proper execution of all duties, so there is no need to worship them. Rather, let us perform our prescribed duties very nicely. Actually, one cannot be happy without executing his proper prescribed duties. One who does not, therefore, properly discharge his prescribed duties is compared to an unchaste wife. The proper prescribed duty of a Brahmana is the study of the Vedas. The proper duty of the royal order, the Kshatriyas, is engagement in protecting the citizens. The proper duty of the Vaishya community is agricultural trade and protection of the cows. And the proper duty of the Sudras is service to the higher classes, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. We belong to the Vaishya community, and our proper duty is to farm, to trade the agricultural products, to protect cows, or to take to banking. Lord Krishna identified himself with the Vaishya community. Because Nanda Maharaj was protecting many cows and Krishna was taking care of them, he enumerated 4 kinds of business engagements for the Vaishyas, namely agriculture, trade, protection of cows and banking. Although the Vaishyas can take to any of these occupations, the men of Vrindavan were engaged in primary in the protection of the cows. Lord Krishna further explained to his father, his cosmic manifestation is going on under the influence of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. These three modes are the causes of creation, maintenance, and destruction. The cloud is caused by the action of the mode of passion, and therefore it is the mode of passion which causes the rainfall. And after the rainfall, the living entities derive the result, success in agricultural work. What then has Indra got to do with this affair? Even if you do not please Indra, what can he do? We do not derive any special benefit from Indra. Even if he is there, he pours water on the ocean also. So where there is no need for water. So he is pouring water on the ocean, on the land. It does not depend on our worshipping him. As far as we are concerned, we do not need to go to any other city or village or foreign country. There are palatial buildings in the cities, but we are satisfied living in the forest of Vrindavan. Our special relationship is with Govardhana Hill and Vrindavan forest, and nothing more. I therefore request you, my dear father, to begin a sacrifice which will satisfy the local brahmanas and Govardhana Hill. Let us have nothing to do with this Indra. After hearing this statement by Krishna, Nanda Maharaj replied, "My dear boy, since you are asking, I shall arrange a separate sacrifice for the local brahmanas and Cowherd and Govardhana Hill. But at present, let us execute the sacrifice known as the Indra judgment." But Krishna replied, "My dear father, don't be late. The sacrifice for your proposed Govardhana and the local brahmanas will take much time. Better take the arrangements."
You had the wrong microphone on. But it was working. I've got a question for you from Jananivas.
Okay.
Thank you.
But Krishna replied, "My dear father, don't delay. The fire sacrifice you propose for Govardhan Hill and the local brahmanas will take much time. So better make all the arrangements and paraphernalia that you already made for Indrajagna and offer them and immediately engage them to satisfy Govardhan Hill and the local brahmanas." Bhagavan Shri Krishna ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. There was a question? Oh. Hey? Hare Krishna. Could you comment on the statement of Krishna? A person who acts with full knowledge gets a full result. One who acts without knowledge does not get such a perfect result. I think it's a very what do you say? I think it's self-evident, but your actual question is, the person who acts with full knowledge gets a full result. So that's why education is necessary. If you act with perfect knowledge, then you get a more fuller result. I can't think of any example. Or we can just say that before we came to Krishna consciousness, we didn't have knowledge on how to act, although we were leading our lives in certain ways. But when we came to Krishna consciousness, then we actually get knowledge. And then we can act according to that knowledge, and that is perfect. Well, I think it's pretty self-evident, the question. Thank you anyway. The question was from Jalangi Devidasi. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Huh? Oh, is it 6 o'clock? Okay. Oh, it's okay. Only 10 minutes. I'm sorry if it's a little bit early. We can go on a bit more. Bhagavan Sri Krishna ki jai. Nanda Maharaj finally relented. The cowherd men then inquired from Krishna how he wanted the yajna performed, and Krishna gave him the following direction. Prepare very nice foodstuffs of all descriptions from the grains and ghee collected in the yajna. Prepare rice, dal, then halwa, pakora, puri, all kinds of preparations make from milk, such as sweet rice, rabri, sweet balls, sandesh, rasagullas, and laddu, and invite the learned brahmanas who can chant the Vedic hymns and offer oblations to the fire. The brahmanas should give all kinds of grains in charity. Then decorate the cows and feed them well. After performing this, give money in charity to the brahmanas. As far as the lower animals are concerned, such as the dogs and the lower grades of people, such as the chandalas or the fifth class of men who are considered untouchable, they also can be given sumptuous prasadam. After nice grasses are given to the cows, the sacrifice known as Govardhana Puja may immediately begin. This sacrifice will very much satisfy me. In this statement, Lord Krishna practically described the whole economy of the Vaishya community. The whole economy of the Vaishya community. In all the communities in human society, including Brahmanas, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, Sudras, Chandalas, etc., and in the animal kingdom, including the cows, dogs, goats, etc., everyone has his part to play. Each has to work in cooperation for the total benefit of all society, which includes not only the animate objects but also the inanimate objects like hills and land. The Vaishya community is specifically responsible for economic improvement. The Vaishya community is specifically responsible for the economic development of the society by producing grains, by giving protection to the cows, by transporting food when needed, and by banking and finance. From the statement we learn also that although the cats and the dogs, which have now become so important, are not to be neglected, cow protection is actually more important than protection of cats and dogs. Another hint we get from this statement is that the chandalas, or the untouchables, are also not to be neglected by the higher classes and should be given necessary protection. Everyone is important, but some are directly responsible for the advancement of human society and some are only indirectly responsible. However, when Krishna consciousness is there, then everyone's total benefit is taken care of. The sacrifice known as Govardhan Puja is observed in the Krishna consciousness movement. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was recommended that since Krishna is worshipable, so his land, Vrindavan, and Govardhan Hill is also worshipable. To confirm this statement, Lord Krishna said that Govardhan Puja is as good as worship of him. From that day, Govardhan Puja has been going on and is known as Annakut in all the temples of Vrindavan or outside Vrindavan. Huge quantities of food are prepared in this ceremony and are very sumptuously distributed to the general population. Sometimes food is thrown to the crowds and they enjoy collecting it from the ground. From this we can understand that the prasadam offered to Krishna never becomes polluted or contaminated, even if it's thrown onto the ground. The people therefore collect it and eat it with great satisfaction. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna therefore advised the cowherd men to stop the Indra Jagana and begin the Govardhan Puja in order to chastise Indra, who was very much puffed up at being the supreme controller of the heavenly planets. The honest and simple cowherd men headed by Nanda Maharaj accepted Krishna's proposal and executed it in detail, everything he advised. He performed the Govardhan worship and circumambulation of the hill. Following the inauguration of Govardhan Puja, people in Vrindavan still dress nicely and assemble near Govardhan Hill to offer worship and circumambulate the hill, leading their cows all around. According to the instruction of Lord Krishna, Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men called the learned Brahmanas and began to worship Govardhan Hill by chanting Vedic hymns and offering prasadam. The inhabitants of Vrindavan assembled together, decorated their cows and gave them grass. Keeping the cows in front, they began to circumambulate Govardhan Hill. The gopis dressed themselves very luxuriantly and sat in bull-driven carts, chanting the glories of Krishna's pastimes. The Brahmanas assembled there to act as priests for Govardhan Puja, offered their blessings to the cowherd men and their wives, the gopis. When everything was complete, Krishna assumed a great transcendental form and declared to the inhabitants of Vrindavan that he was Govardhan Hill himself. In order to convince the devotees that Govardhan Hill and Krishna himself are identical, then Krishna began to eat all the food offered there. The identity of Krishna and Govardhan Hill is still honored by the great devotees. The identity of Krishna and Govardhan Hill is still honored, and great devotees take rocks from Govardhan Hill and worship them exactly as they worship the deity of Krishna. In the temples, the followers of the Krishna consciousness movement may therefore collect small rocks or pebbles from Govardhan Hill and worship them at home, because this worship is as good as deity worship. The form of Krishna, who began to eat the offerings, was separately constituted, and Krishna himself, along with the other inhabitants of Vrindavan, offered obeisances to the deity as well as the Govardhan Hill. In offering obeisances to the huge form of Krishna and Govardhan Hill, Krishna declared Just see how Govardhan Hill has assumed this huge form and is favoring us by accepting all the offerings. Krishna also declared at that meeting that one who neglects the worship of Govardhan Hill, as I am personally conducting it, will not be happy. There are many snakes on Govardhan Hill, and persons neglecting the prescribed duty of Govardhan Puja will be bitten by these snakes and killed. In order to assure the good fortune of the cows and themselves, all the people of Vrindavan near Govardhan Hill worship the hill as prescribed by me. Thus, performing the Govardhan Puja sacrifice, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan follow the instructions of Krishna, the son of Vasudev, and afterwards they return to their homes, their respective homes. And thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 24th chapter of Krishna, the worship of Govardhana Hill. Bhagavan Shri Krishna ki jai, Krishna Book ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.